In your top story at this hour, the crucial three-day ANC-NEC ends today amidst reports of a no-confidence motion tabled against President Jacob Zuma. Now, on Sunday, President Jacob Zuma's supporters have reportedly continued the fight against the motion of no confidence tabled by NEC member Joel Netshidenze at the National Executive Committee meeting on Saturday. Now, according to reports, sacked Tourism Minister Derek Hanekom, Health Minister Aaron Motsoaledi, and his deputy Joe Pahla supported Netshidenze's no-confidence motion. Northwest General Secretary Dakota Legoete, Small Business Development Minister Lindiwe Zulu, and Telecommunications Minister Siyabonga Cwele, they are among others and have spoken in support of the president. Now, however, experts believe that the ANC-NEC does not have the mandate to recall a sitting ANC president. Only ANC branches have that authority. Even as head of state, the NEC cannot take decisions that are above the Constitution and conference resolutions. This, as the president of the state, can either be recalled only by a motion of no confidence in Parliament, or a recall decision can be taken at the ANC elective conference where the branches are present.
Yeah, look, I think firstly they confirm the fact that the country is having much interest in what is happening at the NEC meeting, and more so those who are in the NEC meeting seem to be having direct communication with others who may be outside, such that the secretary of the organization can go out and say there's no motion of confidence that has been tabled in the meeting, yet media can report out and say there's such. That is just an indication that matters that are discussed there are easily leaked out of their meetings, and more than anything, you even have media reports that can indicate to you how many are for and how many are against. There's nobody else who can really confirm that except the people who are inside, and that should be a bit alarming as to are really members of the ANC who are seated in that particular NEC meeting, confident that they are the ones who have the capacity to table whatever they are tabling against Zuma, or they want society to assert pressure on the NEC so that they absolve themselves in an event the motion of no confidence does not succeed. That they would then say, but society knew who at least supported the motion and who did not support. Because should the ANC come out and say, we did not discuss it, we know for a fact that NEC members would not come and act against the weight of the organization. So they are deliberately actually leaking out the information.
And now joining me in studio is Mr. Tshepo Khadima, political analyst, as well as Professor Sipho Siepe. He is also a political analyst, joining us in studio to further unpack this story. A very warm welcome to you, gentlemen, and thank you so much for your time.
Good evening.
Now I'm going to start with you, Professor. Yesterday, Secretary General Gwede Mantashe, he explicitly said that the discussions around the president is not on the table at the NEC, and now we're hearing reports of the no-confidence motion that has been tabled against him. How do you see these reports?
Well, first of all, the ANC, when it goes to a meeting, will have an agenda. The agenda is made much earlier. They don't go there and try to make an agenda in a crowd. But there's nothing that prevents members of the ANC to raise issues. Sometimes the chair may disallow that, but there are times when the people feel that the matter is of such importance and that there's so much pressure and so much interest that you find the ANC succumbing to that pressure and discussing the matter. But you also have some people who say the matter must be discussed, because if it's not discussed, it will be discussed outside. So this is a best forum in which some of these contentious issues are dealt with. So I don't think what the Secretary General was saying was being contradicted. He was simply saying, as far as they are concerned, this is the agenda that they have, but as we know that the members of the ANC are elected into that position to represent what they think are the interests of the organization. And as a party that allows a discussion, sometimes the best way of defeating any discussion is to allow it and to make sure that it is ventilated. And so I will not align myself with those who say there's no such debate. I think given the interest that debate will take place. And I do think that given that the ANC also leaks, I mean, there is no organization that leaks like the ANC. So I do expect that some of the sentiments that have been expressed, that the so-and-so table emotions, those are true. But also the people who are being implicated have publicly made it clear that that is their position. So the media reports, there's a basis for them and for one to believe them. But what you tend to have is also the media that wants to set the agenda. If you take, for instance, the paper by the Mail and Guardian, it was already indicating that more than 50% of members of the ANC do not support the president. And those of us who have watched the behavior of members on the ground at the branches and within the provinces, we do not know where they get those numbers from. But it is also possible that in this day and age where people can easily be bought, they might know the people that they who have been bought, that they themselves are bought. But I think what the deliberations and outcomes will sort of indicate what the discussion may have been. But also the other issues are issues that have to do with the constitutionality, or what does the ANC constitution say on such matters, and what does the constitution of the country say on such on these matters. So they'll have to. I think it's an act of desperation by some, especially when you are looking at the president who's going to be in position as a president of the ANC only until December. The question is why the haste? Why the haste when you might actually end up destroying the very same organization that you say you want to protect? But my sense is that those who want to destroy the ANC, this is the best time for them to do so. It is the best time to remove a president who enjoys a lot of support, at least by no less than 4 provinces and a number of branches. Because when you do that, you are going to divide the ANC. But if you let him continue until December, you might end up with a united ANC. So those who are interested in the ANC, this is a time for them to act. So when you see even the veterans, so-called veterans, who had no problem with the misrule of Thabo Mbeki coming out, it is not because they are interested in the ANC. Some of them, they know that there's nothing that they can gain from the ANC. So the disruption and destruction of the ANC is also in their interest because they may have been captured elsewhere. I mean, if you take, for instance, the former president Thabo Mbeki, he has nothing more to gain from the ANC. So if it collapses, he can always say it collapsed not under my watch. But the ANC was a vehicle that allowed him and enabled him to become a president. But right now, it's of no value. So whatever happens to it, it can never be of his interest. And some members of the so-called 101, if you look at them, if you understand the repercussions, and the cost-benefit analysis will tell you that the repercussions will mean the death of the ANC. They don't care. For them, despite the major problems that we have in this country, their obsession is one person. When they wake up, I mean, the last 2 weeks, we had people marching in the streets talking about women abuse, family violence, children who are abducted and killed, girlfriends who are killed. You didn't see all those people saying that's march with the people who are concerned, because their agenda is one: let's get Jacob Zuma out. And so those people can never be said to people who are interested in where the country goes. And also the other possibility that people do not know is that when you listen to people in the rest of the continent, they say, you know, we thought we were peaceful until the wrong decisions were made, and we end up with a civil strife. And this is also another possibility, that you can end up with a civil war where people are going to protest. And this is why some people have tried to enlist the role of the courts into their business, to almost camouflage it as if there's an element of constitutionalism, when in effect the interest is the destruction of the ANC.
And now I'm going to come to you, Mr. Khadima. We have heard Professor Siepe talking about an act of desperation over there, like the NEC is trying to have a mandate and recalling a sitting president. What do you make of this?
Well, this really reminds me of the current status of the African National Congress and how it is. It reminds me of what Chief Patekile Holomisa aptly described in 1996, when he moved from Eastern Cape and he came to then Shell House before the ANC moved to Lituli House. And in an interview with the Star newspaper, he spoke about how he missed his home province of Eastern Cape and his home district. He said, you know, in Eastern Cape, when they say chief, I know who they are talking about. Here at Shell House, everybody's a chief. And that's exactly the situation that the ANC finds itself today. Everybody's a chief, and as a result, there is lack of respect because there are no boundaries that have been set. Now, if you can have a leader, a member of the National Executive Committee of the ANC, who can even go and suggest to come up with a motion of no confidence discussion, hoping to have a vote when the rules do not provide for such, it then shows you that this is an organization in crisis. It means that you have got people who somehow believe that they ascended to that position of being a member of the National Executive Committee as a result of a birthright and not as a result of a meritocracy. And meritocracy in terms of their understanding of political ideology, the genetic code of the organization that they are leading. And that clearly is not evident as we look at the ANC that it is today, that when their own constitution makes no such provision, that in fact they can spend so much time, waste the whole weekend discussing a matter that in any case would be unlawful. So effectively we are going to see an ANC going forward that's going to be run by the courts. We must not forget that COPE itself was run by the courts for a period of time. And COPE today is a former shadow of what it promised to have become. Now we're going to see the African National Congress, by the current leadership, by their allowing, for example, they got this self-styled group of persons that they say that the 101 or whatever number that they think that they are, who are not a structure, they are not recognized, they are not provided for in terms of the constitution of the ANC. They are demanding a seat at the table. They are making certain demands in terms of how the organization is supposed to run. They refuse to participate within the recognized structures constitutionally of the ANC. And somehow the current leadership is paralyzed and is giving them leeway, is entertaining them. That is going to mean that this leadership is going to start taking resolutions or decisions on things that are unlawful, and other structures of the ANC, when they take them to court, the courts are now going to be finding themselves having to run the ANC. So this is certainly a difficult time. There has to be somebody who emerges to be able to really ensure that they do not tolerate. Now, for example, last December, the beginning of December, on that NEC where Derek Hanekom also led a similar motion of no confidence, I commented that this is nothing but mutiny. If you tolerate mutiny, then you are going to descend into anarchy. We are now seeing that they took no action of any kind. There was no disciplinary action brought against those in terms of being tolerant of really what clearly is bringing the organization into disrepute. And now, if they continue to be tolerant, I can assure you you're going to have an ANC that is run by the courts, and then you're going to have an ANC that will not even be able, because some of the decisions that they are doing, some of the things that they are doing where they disregard their own rules. By disregarding their own rules, it means therefore that they are plunging that into an organizational constitutional crisis, which unfortunately cannot be good for the ANC. I doubt that we will have a strong ANC if they continue this. I believe that come 2017 December, they might not even be able to have an elective conference. And come 2019, they will lose the election through a self-inflicted knockout, not because of what the opposition would have done to unseat them.
That's an interesting point that you've made over there. But I'm going to just cross over to Giovanni Machane, who is joining us from outside the St. George's Hotel in Irene. A very warm welcome to you, and thank you so much for joining us, Giovanni. Now, Giovanni, it is the final day of the ANC NEC, and have you heard anything from the discussions that are currently taking place today?
Yes, good evening to you and good evening to the viewers. Unfortunately, not a lot has been brought out into the public space, especially on social media, as we found out the report yesterday from Joel Nitenze saying that he brought up the motion of no confidence against President Jacob Zuma, and other ministers and NEC members did follow suit, obviously backing him in this regard. We do know that this comes after the 2016 call of no vote of confidence that NEC decided to put against President Jacob Zuma, but he fought that battle and, continued to be president of South Africa and lead the ANC going forward. But definitely from the side or outside the walls of the St. George's Hotel, it has been quiet. The meeting is still taking place with a number of NEC members still to speak and be heard. We do know that they have been barred from taking their phones inside to the conference area, and that might also lead to the reason why today has been rather quiet.
And were there any media reports that the ANC succession race has been opened? Any word on that?
Definitely not. We do know that before the ANC-NEC started on Friday, there were likely topics to be on the agenda for discussion. But what took storm was the call of no confidence that Joel Nitenze brought up, saying, and that obviously clouded everything, such as the succession battle, the factionalism that has been a part of the ANC recently, as well as the issue between Brian Molefe and Eskom. And definitely, although those are issues that need to be addressed, it seems that the vote of no confidence against President Jacob Zuma has taken everything by storm.
All right, thank you very much. That was our ANC reporter Giovanni Majani just giving us more details, and she is outside at the St. George's Hotel in Irene. And now coming back into studio, still with our political analysts. I'm going to come back to you, Professor Siape. Mbeki was taken out in almost some similar way. What is the difference this time, and what can we expect with this recall, with this motion of no confidence?
Yeah, the difference is simple. When Mbeki was removed as a president of the country, he was no longer a president of the ANC. He had already lost political power or authority to dictate. And also, that is the first thing. And the ANC felt that he is of no value anymore, especially given his posture towards ANC. He was no longer attending meetings of the ANC, and some members of the ANC felt that it is time to remind him that he is the president of the country, not because he's smart, but because the ANC is an ANC employee. So when they felt that he was assuming that posture of untouchability and invincibility, they felt it is necessary to remove him. And I think that was sending a lesson. President Zuma at the moment is still the president of the ANC. And the position of the ANC is that whoever is the president of the ANC should, it's a resolution of conference, it's preferred that the person should be a president of the country if the ANC is the governing party. So to remove him, you have to undermine the ANC resolution that they themselves have taken. So that is the one difference. And the second difference is that by the time Mbeki was removed, he had become a very unpopular president. It was almost like every province, most of the branches wanted to see the back of him. So here you have a president who still commands respect and who still enjoys a lot of support. And we've seen provincial chairs taking a position. Remember, as my colleague Mr. Khadima was saying, that in December we had the same process taking place, and immediately when it was suggested that the president must be removed, about 8 provinces immediately responded to what Gauteng had suggested when it said the president must do the right thing. So you have somebody who still enjoys support, but who is still the president of the ANC. So that would be a mountain to climb. But secondly, given the trauma that the ANC went through in removing an unpopular president, they know it will be even, the trauma will be multiplied 10 times if you remove a president who still enjoys a level of popularity. So those are the stark differences that we have between then and now. But some would also say, do we risk destroying the ANC rather than to wait until the next coming 6 months? And I think sober heads will suggest that maybe we can entertain this when he's no longer the president of the ANC. And the branches themselves have made it very clear that they are not going to allow anybody to usurp their right to elect their leaders. This is why what has been said, that the only conference is empowered. And one must also understand, when President Mbeki was removed, he agreed to it because of a number of reasons. One, he was clear in understanding that the leadership or the members of parliament were not going to support him. So rather than for him to suffer another third humiliation, he felt it is better for him to live intact with the privileges and benefits of having been a former president. But at that time, it was very clear that he was facing a situation where he cannot win. Pres Zuma is not facing that scenario at the moment, despite the fact that we are told that the money has been flowing like rivers of Babylon to make sure that the members of ANC find themselves swimming in that money. But I guess the jury is out.
Now, Mr. Khadima, the elective conference is barely 6 months away. And now when Zuma steps down and a new party leader takes charge, what do you think about some of the ANC leaders who are saying that he should actually step down now and cannot actually wait for December?
I mean, the people whose names I have seen that they are calling for president to go, from my own analysis of the African National Congress, none of them are going to return into the National Executive Committee. They are going to be booted out because they just they don't understand the African National Congress that they are supposedly leading, and that is, I think, the issue that they are facing. So the issue is that currently, whilst they are being tolerated, how much damage will they cause to the African National Congress? And I think that is, the jury is still out on that, but I think it's going to be a lethal blow that they are going to exert by their own conduct on the ANC. If the leaders of the ANC and the structures continue to tolerate ill discipline, I mean, it is completely absurd that in the year of O.R. Tambo Unity in Action slogan, that mantra simply means nothing, because what we have seen, in fact, we have seen a disunited, factionally riddled ANC, and that's really the real problem right there and there. So everything else that the leaders have spoken, that we need unity, we need to enforce unity in action, you can't have unity in action when you are tolerating ill discipline. And for a member of the National Executive Committee who should know the constitution of the party, and in this case the ANC, who it should be their Bible, but then for them not to know it, they've committed a political cardinal sin, which if you do not punish them, certainly I can assure you it's going to be a cancer that is going to bring an end to this party. There's just no other way. A house divided against itself cannot stand. And right now what we are seeing is that they are tolerating that division, they are tolerating that ill discipline, and nobody has been brought to book, because if a member does not understand, there is no lawful provision to bring about a motion of no confidence proceedings, they simply brought the party into disrepute. First and foremost, that they are not a fit and proper person, because they do not understand the very role and the essence of the position that they hold. If, let's say, for example, they said in the June policy conference they were going to be suggesting an amendment to the ANC constitution to specifically make a provision to empower the NEC to then inquire on any one of their members on whether they are still fit to hold office, and if they can pass a motion of no confidence, and then design the rules that would govern that process, then we would take such people serious, because we would think that you can't make rules as you go along. No matter how much you hate one Jacob Zuma, you can't go and bring the whole party down on the basis of hatred. So it shows you I think their lack of appreciation, and that actually they are not just naive, but they are dangerous for the ANC itself, by not going that route, so that in December they could then vote and ratify that resolution. And once they pass such resolution, it will find its way into the Constitution as an amendment. Then, of course, we could see them being able to do it. But right now, they haven't done it. And I think if you speak to many of the leaders, they were to revert back to 2008. Despite all whatever evidence that they had and whatever the feeling was amongst the majority, they would not want to repeat the Mbeki experience because it brought so much pain and in fact reduced the popularity of the party. And you still have people who are factionalists from that era of 2008. So going forward, can the ANC do that again? Come December, Zuma, the things are different now. In 2007, President Mbeki still had the desire to continue as the leader of the ANC. In 2017, President Zuma has no desire to continue as the leader of the ANC as president. So things are completely different from that point of view. So with the full knowledge that he has no desire to continue to seek a third term, so to speak, or to be president for the third time, consecutively, what really is there to be gained other than then for some of us who have analyzed that the African National Congress today as we sit here is suffering from entryism. That is the highest level of infiltration by outside forces. And those outside forces are using people who would have been seen to be in good and regular standing as leaders to actually bring a mortal blow to the very same organization they're supposed to lead. So entryism is the enemy that if they do not deal with, unfortunately, this party is going to die.
I'm going to just have to hold you over there. We have unfortunately run out of time, but thank you so much for joining us here in studio. That was Professor Sipho Siepe as well as Mr. Tshepo Kgadima, political analyst, joining us in studio, just giving us more details. As we know that the crucial three-day ANC NEC meeting ends today amidst reports of a no-confidence motion which has been tabled against President Jacob Zuma. Right